So I'd like to start by asking you about your daughter and to give you a chance to tell us about Tasman and introduce us to her.
Well, it's really interesting. I have never been married. And when I was about 36, a friend of mine was going to see a psychic. And, I'm always up for an adventure. And I thought, oh, I'll go along. And we're sitting there, and the psychic she'd come in from California. I was living in Connecticut at the time. And she went around the room, and told everybody what their next purpose in life. And here I am, this, traveler and freelancer and, not married. And she came to me and she says, I don't know if you're going to like this, but your next role in life is parenthood. So we walked out of that session and I said to my friend, that lady is crazy, that was one I didn't necessarily believe. But sure enough, within a month or two, I was indeed pregnant, greatest gift of my life. And sure enough, I had Tasman. She was born on October 8th, 1993. And she's just been, like I said, the greatest gift of my life and continues to be the greatest gift of my life. I feel still very close to her. But anyway, so I raised her. In the beginning, I was kind of looking to live in a community, that old thing, it takes a village to raise a child. So I was going around to various communities, like intentional communities. I went to one in Missouri, I went to one in Colorado. So anyway, and then eventually, my first book was published with a big publisher, and I got wrapped up in doing all that. And so I eventually just bought a house and raised her in a conventional way. I moved to a town that was a university town that was a little bit smaller. I've lived a lot of places, but I had been living in Kansas City and I wanted to live in a smaller place. And I had grown up in Kansas. So I raised her in Lawrence, Kansas, and she always thanked me for that. She loved it. It's the kind of town where there's plenty going on because of the university, but it's not a big city feel, so you can still walk around and enjoy things, but yet there's plenty to do. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
good place to raise her. She went on, graduated from Grinnell College, studied Spanish and anthropology, and had gone to Spain and had lived there for a while after she graduated, had come back to Lawrence and was going to head to China. But she ended up staying in Lawrence with a job. She got a job with Big Brothers Big Sisters. She was Spanish speaking, coordinator or whatever for the program. So luckily she was here that last year of her life, which was again such a great gift that I was able to, be here, or she was here to be with me, and we'd call each other on the phone. Hey, you want to go fika, which is a term. We had been to Sweden together. We traveled a lot together because I did a lot of travel writing. And so fika is a term that you go and have a coffee and a pastry. So we would get together very often. She's already grown, has her own apartment and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've always just been super close. Again, as a travel writer, I took her all over the world. She'd been to 40 countries, in her short 25 years of life, which is pretty amazing for someone that age. And so she was always going with it. And she was just this beautifully kind, loving person. It's like she had some agenda, way beyond anything I could understand. I mean, I think she came to heal me in a lot of ways, but I also think she came to spread love, because she never did the things that a lot of kids do. Like a lot of her friends are into following the celebrities and doing those kind of things that teenage girls do. She just never had any interest in that. She was like, one of the stories I told, this is long before she passed, but when she was younger, we had done three things. We'd gone to a homeless shelter to serve one, in the effort. And then there was a parade we went to see. And then I think I took her to see Annie or some play at the Lead Center. So these three things we had done over this weekend. And the thing she said, the next Monday, like, oh, when can we go serve at the homeless shelter? That she just loved. She was just pure love. And she never, I mean, I always wanted to help her with schoolwork or whatever, but she just did it all. She was just very self-motivated and self-driven and didn't need a lot of my help. Although again, we were just, super, super close.
Mm-hmm.
And the year she passed, it was interesting. My father passed that year. My mother passed 9 days before Taz passed. And then we had just come back from my mother's funeral, and parents dying is a whole different ballgame than, I mean, they were in their 80s. It wasn't, And again, I've always believed that we're so much more than these bodies and that we're still connected. So those weren't like such earth shattering things. But then, we literally had come back from my mom's funeral. Taz had gone with some of her friends to see one of them had just moved into an apartment, and they all had gone up there that night. And because my mom had just passed, and this had just happened, I hugged Taz so big. I mean, I always hugged her when she left, but it was just like, oh, I love you so much, because you just never know, you know, because we just, finished up with the funeral. And then the next morning, we're texting each other. We're going to go see a movie, see a movie. And I noticed she hadn't returned a text after a while. And I had said, hey, let's go have breakfast before we go to the movie, just whatever. And next thing I know, there's a cop at my door. And she had had an aneurysm, and they had her at the local hospital, Lawrence Memorial Hospital, and they were life flighting her to Kansas City. Well, I never spoke to her again, but that's how sudden it was. And again, 25, perfectly healthy, just the last thing I would have expected. And um, so anyway, yeah, it began a whole new journey for me, very different than the one I thought I was on, how that does happen.
If you like what you see here, make sure you watch the full video linked below.